The summer of 1914 began like any other in Europe. Warm winds, blooming fields, and the comforting illusion of peace. Yet beneath the calm, the world stood on the brink of a storm that would sweep across continents, consume empires, and change humanity forever. For kings and emperors, it was supposed to be a short, glorious campaign, a war that will end before the leaves fall from the trees. For the young men marching out in shining uniforms, it was supposed to be an adventure, but the leaves would fall again and again through 4 winters of blood, mud, and fire. It was a bright June morning in 1914 when the streets of Sarajevo filled with excitement. Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie rode through the city in an open car, smiling, waving, and unaware of the fate that awaited them. The air was filled with cheers and the rhythmic clatter of hooves on cobblestone, but hidden among the crowd stood men with darker intentions, the Black Hand. One of them hurled a bomb, but the Archduke's quick reflexes saved his life. Shaken, yet determined, Franz Ferdinand refused to retreat. He insisted on visiting the wounded officers at the hospital. But destiny took a cruel turn. The driver made a wrong turn onto Franz Josef Street. There, waiting in the shadow, stood Gavrilo Princip. His hand trembled as he drew his pistol, his mind burning with purpose. 2 gunshots shattered the silence of Sarajevo. The first struck the Archduke's neck, the second hit Sophie in the stomach. Within minutes, both lay motionless, the spark that would ignite the Great War. The assassination in Sarajevo shook the world, but in Vienna, it was seen as an insult to an empire's pride. Austria-Hungary accused Serbia of plotting the murder and demanded justice. Justice that would never be peacefully given. The ultimatum that followed was harsh, almost impossible for Serbia to accept without surrendering its sovereignty. Despite efforts to avoid war, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. Russia, the protector of the Slavs, began to mobilize its massive army in defense of Serbia. In Berlin, Kaiser Wilhelm II saw Russia's move as a threat and ordered full mobilization of the German army. Germany issued an ultimatum to Russia and France: stand down or face war. France fortified its borders, haunted by memories of its past defeat in the Franco-Prussian War. Then, when Germany invaded Belgium to reach France, Britain could no longer stay silent. On August 4, 1914, Britain declared war on Germany, and the world was now engulfed in fire. As German forces poured through Belgium, the quiet European summer turned into a storm of fire. The Belgian army fought bravely, slowing the German advance more than anyone expected. But Germany's war machine was relentless, crushing towns under its steel and smoke. Soon, the Germans reached the French border, where British and French soldiers dug deep into the earth. The Battle of the Marne would decide the fate of Paris, and perhaps the entire war. French taxis carried thousands of soldiers to the front lines, a nation rushing to defend itself. After days of brutal fighting, the Germans were forced to retreat. Paris was safe. But neither side could claim true victory. Both armies dug in, preparing for a long and bitter struggle. The Western Front was born, a scar across Europe that would bleed for 4 long years. As the guns thundered in the west, another front erupted in the east. Russia marched to war. The Germans and Austro-Hungarians faced wave after wave of Russian troops, advancing across the endless plains of Poland and Galicia. At Tannenberg, the Germans encircled and annihilated an entire Russian army, over 100,000 men lost. Yet despite crushing defeats, Russia's vast manpower kept the war in the east alive, stretching German resources to the limit. Far to the south, the Ottoman Empire entered the war, reshaping the conflict into a global struggle. In the Middle East, the Turks clashed with the British at Gallipoli, a brutal campaign fought on cliffs and blood-soaked beaches. In Arabia, a new flame ignited. Arab fighters rose against Ottoman rule, with British support fanning the rebellion. Across Africa, Colonies turned to battlefields as European empires dragged their distant lands into the chaos of war. From Europe to Asia, from Africa to the Middle East, the Great War was no longer a continent's tragedy. It had become the world's. By 1915, the war had settled into a grim stalemate. From the North Sea to Switzerland, men lived and died in the trenches. Rats, lice, and mud became constant companions. The front line was hell carved into the earth. Every sunrise brought artillery barrages, shells raining from unseen skies. The whistle would blow, and men climbed ladders into the storm of bullets. In 1915, new horrors arrived. The first clouds of poison gas rolled across no man's land. At Verdun, France and Germany fought the longest battle of the war, 10 months of slaughter. Then came the Somme, a river turned to mud, and hope drowned with it. For inches of ground, thousands died. Generals measured victory by yards, not by lives. Back home, families waited for letters that never came. The world had entered a nightmare that seemed to have no end. By 1917, the world was breaking under the weight of war. Empires trembled and soldiers questioned why they still fought. In Russia, revolution erupted. The Tsar fell, and the empire withdrew from the war. Across the ocean, a new power stirred. The United States entered the war, bringing fresh strength to the weary allies. In the skies, fragile biplanes danced and dueled. War had found new wings. On the ground, tanks rolled forward, iron beasts crushing barbed wire and fear alike. Germany fought desperately, launching one last great offensive in 1918. But the Allies pushed back. German lines shattered, and their will to fight broke with them. On November 11, 1918, the guns finally fell silent. The Great War was over, but peace came with scars. Europe lay in ruins, and millions never returned home. Old empires collapsed. New nations were born.
If we impose these terms, we risk another war.
But so were the seeds of another war. The world called it the war to end all wars. But history would prove otherwise.